Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We should be starting soon, inshallah. I get a few things situated, and we'll be starting the R2F show this week on the emasculation of men in the cult. And it should be an interesting topic because there's a lot of ways we can go about this, and there's a lot of things that go into it. But inshallah, we'll be starting soon.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum assalam.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Okay, as Brother Amr just said, we're going to be talking about the emasculation of men today. We're going to kind of jump right in it because we're only going to be here for an hour, and this is going to probably be one of those topics that, you know, takes us off the rails a little bit, maybe. But we're going to talk about emasculation of men. I know there's a lot of talk out there and a lot of different videos on, you know, different things that are, you know, topics that are coming up as far as like men's roles, masculine toxicity, femininity, and all that type of stuff. But we're going to talk about it in a specific context of cult members, specifically with the cult that we dealt with an TMOA, and the real systematic breakdown of how the manhood is taken away from cult members, and how it's all given to the women in the cult and to like really the cult leader.
Yep.
So I don't know if we have a specific way to kind of jump into this, but you know, we know Islamically, men have roles and women have roles, and Allah has established a system that has been in place for centuries. I mean, centuries is and it's never going to change. I mean, this is the way it's going to be. You see different things changing in modern times because of different initiatives, but this is the natural way of things. So, and we can kind of maybe just start here. Like we see, if we look at for like as far as African Americans go, and we look at the history of slavery and different things or tactics that were done to kind of emasculate the male slaves,
Yep.
break up the households, and these different things. You know, everybody's read like the Lynch letter and all these different tactics. You actually see those in different forms happen right in inside the cult. So like one thing is like, you know, they broke up families. We see that in like our American system today with like welfare and, you know, these types of things. But looking inside of that, at that same aspect within inside like the cult of TMOA, one of the things that happened is men were constantly brought out of the homes, where instead of like working to support their families and be the man of the household, they're either traveling to Pakistan to serve a sheikh, going on road trips where they're taking on like, you know, little like girlfriends and stuff while they're on the road, not taking care of family, committing crimes. Or even in our times where they kind of stopped doing crimes, it's like they would always have to go quit their jobs or something and go to a retreat and restart their lives over every single year, where they can't be a provider and these sorts of things. So there's a lot of different things that we can get into with this, but the long and short of it will be is the longer in the cult you are in a cult, the more likely you're going to be a bitch.
What a way to end it.
Well, I mean, and the thing is, as unfortunately or fortunately, I mean, some people, they just don't know it. They don't know that they actually are emasculated, and that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, we will be able to shed some light on, kind of what it looks like, what it feels like, and because it's like if you grow up a certain way, and you see your dad treated a certain way, or treating his mother a certain way, or your mother treating your father a certain way, or other people, you know, dealing with the men in your community and your role models coming up a certain way, and they act a certain way, and they roll a certain way, then you might think this is just the way it is. And until
Mhm.
someone kind of shows you, pulls you out of it, and or kind of open your eyes to it, and you're like, oh wow, that is one thing. Another thing that hopefully we can try to do as well is, I've been listening to some feedback. People usually they usually run the complaints or the constructive criticism. Jafar usually gets it directly, but for some reason I seem to get it like through a third party or something. Like sometimes they'll they do the old trick. They tell your dad, such and such and such and such,
Of
and it kind
course.
of like trickles to you,
Yeah.
things like that. So I mean, we're looking at one of the things that I think that does get through, and maybe y'all have heard these things before, is that we have a lot of we can pick everything apart with the best of them, but the solution or some sort of like actions they can take that is going to benefit. Because if you just tear down and you don't build up, then you've just got ruins everywhere. So we will try to give some points on how you can also not only like identify emasculation, but also kind of repair that or to fix it, inshallah. So that's what we're hoping to do as well.
And for the first thing that I want to talk about is how Mubarak Jelani, the cult leader, he had more say over what your wife did than you did. That's the first step, right? Once you take bayat to him or whatever the hell you guys did, and he gets to tell you, okay, send your wife over here to Pakistan with me, all right? And she's over there doing God knows what, feeding him, massaging his feet, combing his hair. And so at that point, right, it's already started. You're thinking, okay, well, oh, this is great. It's spiritual. This is no, it's not. It's not. You have just been turned into, all right, a slave. All right. He can now do what he wants to with your wife. You have no idea what's going on. You don't see her. And he has control over that, right? Because as a man, when you're married in Islam, you have a say over the things your wife can and can't do. Like, oh, I don't want you to go out at 8 p.m. Don't go, right? So that's already taken out from me. That's the first thing. So it starts early, right? And then as we go on the show, we'll align how it keeps getting worse.
Well, let me give you guys an example of some like real life examples that actually happen in TMOA. So you have an individual who's a man, right? And his wife is like appointed to like, let's just say like the secretary of the Shura Council or the secretary of like the local mayors or whatever. And what ends up happening is, and you can imagine yourself in this situation where the Khalifa or mayor or Shura, whoever, honorable, whatever, is now like calling your wife maybe 11, 12 o'clock at night to Hajjat time. We need you to come to this meeting. And it doesn't stop there. That's just one. So I'm calling you late hours, early morning to come serve us. Two, oh, and make some breakfast for us. We're gonna need some breakfast too, right? And if it's dinner time, make that nice little dish that you usually make for us. Make us some brownies, cook us up some stuff, And this is what's happening. And the thing is like it's not even like the husband, like the husband has a problem with it, but he can't even say anything against it because you basically have other men calling your wife out of your home to pretty much provide services that their wives should be providing them.
I mean, it's everything short of, and make sure you wear that cute little dress I like. I mean, that is everything. Yeah. I mean, that's the last thing that he could possibly say that would give you a clue that, I mean, basically they're in complete control of your wife. And it shouldn't be that way. I would say there's two things. As you was talking, I was realizing that the hadith of Rasulullah where he says that any nation that is led by a woman is doomed to failure. I mean, and this is one reason why you have to be very, very careful. Any group has to be very, very careful of how they are putting, or if they're going to put women in leadership positions, even sub roles, or just in administrative positions at all, because what it can do is, depending on, especially if that woman is in some sort of administrative role over other men, because or especially if her husband, or if those men that are, in authority over her and her family, if she is administrator over them. I remember once my younger brother, he's my brother right up under me, Burhanullah. He got put as the head of security.
Mhm.
Do you think I listened to anything that he said?
Nope.
He had to tell me one time, "Hey, yo, you can't leave the land." And we just kind of looked at each other like,
I'm leaving the land. Yeah.
I mean, like,
Like, I know you're going.
he couldn't even, he kind of said it in a sheepish way. And I looked at him like, I didn't even respond, because I mean, it's like, now that I'm using that as an example, because think about that. You're a younger brother who you possibly have changed his diapers and helped him, clean himself when he's using the bathroom while you're coming up. You know what I mean? You're dressing him as as his younger brother and all these other things. You helping him eat and feeding him and stuff like that. He doesn't feel right being an authority over you, even though that is not something that's out of line, because Rasul did put younger people in charge over some elders. We think of Osama bin Zayd as probably the most famous person, 17 years old, and he was put in charge of an army that had Abu Bakr and Umar and many other prominent Sahaba in it. But what was the main point is the fact that Osama who was a man. He was 17 years old, but he was that guy. He was that dude. So he wasn't 17 and like these 17-year-olds today, where I mean, they can't even get out of bed in the morning. No, he was a leader from jump, and Rasul put him in charge for a reason. But he was a man. It wasn't, he didn't put Fatima anha in charge of the army.
Right.
And it was a man. But the thing is, so I only gave that story about myself to say that if you have someone who, a man in his home, he should be the leader. He's the leader, and he has final veto power over any and all, goings on inside the home.
Yes, he should, yeah.
But if he's not not an authority, or if his wife or his daughter or someone who is actually supposed to be answering to him is in a position of authority even over him in a bigger community, in a bigger sense, it causes corruption inside of his home. So this is one reason, a man can take, and they're able to accept being led or being leadership by other men, even if they're younger than them, even sometimes if they feel like they're not as capable as them, they say, well, this is just part of the job. You know what I mean? We just gotta, do it. But for a woman to be put in charge over a man, it is difficult to do. Usually you're going to have rebellion. If you don't have rebellion, then you have probably some weak and emasculated men, because they don't have the intestinal fortitude to really have that, at least that pride in themselves as men and as leaders who should be leaders of their homes and communities themselves, to then step back and actually follow behind a woman, when that woman, even in her own home, has to ask her husband, can I go outside of the home? Do you mind if I go to the store? Can I go and visit my friend? Can I go to my mother's house? She has to ask him every time for these things. So how does it work? It just doesn't work.
Well, I'll give you another real life example. I had a close friend that he lives on a land, and they purchased his home and all that. But his in-law was a female administrator leader, and she would constantly send people to his house to stay, even without his permission. And even when he tried to say I don't want anybody staying here, was told that's not your house. That's Abuji's house.
Abuji's house, yeah.
And he would never stand up for himself. So, not even okay, you lost control of your wife, but even in your own domain, your own your lion's den, your home, that's where I'm the king of this castle. You're not even in control of that. And it's these little things that happen. And I will never, we used to have the conversations even when I was in TMOA. And there's one big sign of how everybody in TMOA has been emasculated. And we're gonna, this may be a known secret, but even think back why you were in TMOA. in all the chat rooms and private discussions and, you know, guys talk and all that at the basketball games and no females around, almost every single man that you'll have a conversation with, they'll start talking about polygamy, right? But then they all want to do it, but not one person is actually brave enough to do it. Not one person is actually brave enough to say, hey, yeah, I want to get another wife. To the point where, like, even one individual that he actually got into polygamy by lying to his wife. So what he did was he asked Mubarak Jelani for permission to take on a second wife, right? So it's him initiating the process, right? Asked for permission. Mubarak Jelani gave him permission. Then he went back to his first wife and said, Abuji said, I got to get married again. Like it was a command. Because like that's how bad it is that people are afraid to even, like, you know, and women, you could take your stance on this, whatever, because you know how you stand with, you know, polygamy. But the fact is that your husbands are so emasculated that they actually do want another wife, but are so afraid to do it that they'll never do it without your permission and without like backing from now their Sheikha or Murshida.
Imagine someone going to Unor like, Unor, can I get a second wife? Like,
yeah, me.
Nah, nah. Y'all have to for the men, you have to understand that when your rights are taken away, and you don't fully understand this, you'll never be at peace, right? Because there's a part of you that's like something's missing here. Like it could be just the smallest thing, but deep down you're like, I can't even do certain things that I want to do. It's like, as a man, it's like, okay, well, it's Sunday. I want to sit there and watch the NFL. And she's over here like bossing you around. Nigga, go outside and talk to KT. It's like, oh yeah, like you have to like dead that, bro. Like, I don't care. And maybe it's different for me because I wasn't married in the cult. I wasn't an adult in the cult. But like, niggas would not tell me anything. Period. All right, like,
yeah,
that's just not how I am. Like, it wasn't like, oh, we're gonna get you to retreat. No, you're not. Oh, call me the honorable people saying no. It's K2.
Yeah.
So y'all need to just get out of that mindset. It's really like that. It's really just, I mean, because at the end of the day, right? Like, when you're married to this person, well, do you think that she respects you when you just acquiesce to her demands? Like, it wasn't like, oh yeah, like I'm just gonna be the beta simp and just, yes, queen, everything you say is right. Like, I promise you, it's not gonna.
That is the culture in TMOA, and it comes from, like, there's a weird phenomenon inside the cult where, like, a lot of the older brothers and sisters, because of whatever relationships they had and whatever lives they lived when they were like doing the incognito, giving 100% of their money to Mubarak Jelani, a lot of the women were severely mistreated. Like, you look at a lot of them, like we've had interviews with women that got married when they were, you know, pubescent, 12, 11, 12, 13 years old, had their lives stolen from them. You hear stories about, like, yeah, this lady got a prayer rug and some thicka beads for her dowry, and you know, she was the fourth. Like, they were kind of wilding out back in the days. But what happened is that you lead up to this, and you have the fact that Mubarak Jelani was taking away all the men's natural rights that they have as being, one, husbands, fathers, just men, period, right? You have to get permission to get married. You have to get permission to get divorced. You have to get permission to do anything. You have no rights over your wife. You can just call your wife, and then they got to go to Pakistan or whatever, and you got to whatever, right? And then you have this new generation coming up where they basically go to the other extreme, where the young men growing up see that, oh yeah, the older generation treated women like dirt, so I'm going to go to extreme and be super simp, right? And I'm going to let my wife do every single possible thing that she wants to do, and I'm just, you know. And then you have the women like, yeah, I my husband can't tell me what to do, I need to, you know. You have these two things happening at the same time, and it just makes the whole situation worse.
And that's where Shaitan wants you to live on the extremes. He wants to keep you being either extremely irreligious and just a jahil, and ghafil about, you know, the religion and about Allah and about your purpose, or he wants you to be so extreme, like the Khawarij and Mu'tazila and these type of people said, you're so extreme about the religion that you're blinded to, you know, to staying in the middle between those two things. So if he can push you to be so extreme in one way, he's fine with that. And then if you do actually recognize, man, this is extreme, then he's going to try to push you all the way to the opposite end of the spectrum. And that's why you have like they go from just completely oppressing the women and keeping them really under their thumb and not even regarding their thoughts, their needs at all. They were literally just, you know, used, passed around like just second-class citizen or whatever. Their consent was not taken for when they were getting married and things like that. To then it's the complete opposite, where the men are complete simps and cucks and just, you know, basically are allowed them to run over top of them. This is the work of shaitan. There is a standard that is in place, and the example is the Islamic model, Rasulullah and the companions, and you know how they were is the best template for us to use. Of course, in modern times we do have some differences, but for the most part, that template is going to be the same. I mean, think about this. And like Jafar, how many times probably have you been having a conversation with someone about all this stuff we're doing, about R2F stuff, or maybe even before that, you know, where either your wife was waiting on you to go out or whatever it might be, but they're waiting on you to stop dealing with the business at hand. You know, you're taking care of some business, helping someone or whatever. It's kind of an administrative role. I mean, literally, sometimes I'm literally on the phone and my wife is like literally looking me right in the eyes, like, when can we, you know, go or whatever the case may be. And I'm literally just dealing with somebody, you know, about whatever. Now, imagine that role being reversed. And this is where the problem comes in. For us, if our wives are waiting for us for, you know, whatever, it could be anything. It's possible that we could be oppressing them. We could be in the wrong, you know, but someone might say, okay, but you know, your wives know the, you know, the work that you do and the position that you're in and kind of, you know, you're helping people. So they should be patient, and Allah would reward them for that, you know, patience, inshallah. But it's kind of a necessary thing. These people are calling, they need help, or they want questions, or, you know, we're trying to give da'wah, or whatever the case may be. But it's been many a times. I know that probably had the same situation, but seriously, you literally are supposed to be somewhere else doing something else, and everyone's waiting on you, and you are, you know, dealing with someone else. Now imagine that role being reversed, and your wife is, you know, doing this for so-and-so and so-and-so and doing all these things, and you have to literally sit there and you're waiting for her. The problem comes in because the woman's akhirah is tied to the satisfaction that her husband has with her. This is not I didn't make this up and concoct this. Rasulullah said that the woman, if her husband is happy with her and she dies and her husband is happy with her, he's satisfied with her, and she prays and she fasts and just does this, just the normal basic Islam, she goes, got a ticket straight to Jannah. So for her to be doing anything for anyone else while her husband is angry, has to wait for her, or even if he's upset, maybe he's not angry, but this is pissing him off. She's sinful and she's wrong and she's jeopardizing her akhirah. Is it worth your afterlife, knowing that me having this position and people saying, oh, so-and-so is the leader of such and such and such, and look at all she's doing? Had a man actually tell me his wife, that admin or Jilani or whoever told his wife straight up, you are going to Egypt or you're going somewhere or whatever, and he had no say so in whatsoever. Basically just told him, you're going. And he literally was grappling to try to, and his wife was getting like this praise and recognition from admin and from you know, Shura Council or whatever, for her dedication and for her willingness to drop everything, even her kids, to do, you know, whatever for admin. And so he's like, he called me one day and was like, yo, I need like a degree or something, an Islamic degree. How can I get one? He said, I don't, he told me straight up. He said, I don't need the information. I don't need the knowledge. I just need the degree. I'm like, why? What's the point? You know what I'm saying? He said, because I got to do something to match my wife, because they're like, you know, they're, you know, she, you know, basically he's almost in a competition with her. But I mean, how is it that he is so emasculated? He's completely torn apart now. He's literally just trying to get some sort of paper, some sort of document or something that so he can show his wife, be like, yeah, I'm somebody. And I'm something. I mean, and that type of mindset for some of the men in TMOA is not uncommon. It's very common to where their wives are put on a pedestal and they're really not doing anything special except for literally doing what they should be doing for their husbands for someone else.
Yep.
And you know what they'll say is well, we treat they always bring this analogy of like they try to hold the sheikh or the leader up to like how the status of the Sahaba held Rasul, which is like, okay, but then it's like, okay, well, tell me one Sahaba's wife that served Rasul over serving their husband. Like, give me one example of that there's somebody, a Sahaba's wife was like at Rasul's house serving leaving her husband late at night, rubbing Rasul's feet, cutting his toenails, combing his hair. Name one Sahaba's wife that was doing that. And you won't find any examples of that. You won't find any. And then you like, oh, it's Akhla Bayt. Okay, well, let's look at Akhla Bayt. Let's look at Rasul's daughter. What was she doing with Ali? We know the famous hadith where, Fatima radiallahu anha was working so hard she was getting like calluses on her hands and all, and Ali was like, they just won. I forget what battle it was, but they're like, they just got a bunch of slaves. Why don't you go ask your father if you can get some servants? And she went and asked, and he was like, and that's what we got. Say Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wallahu akbar after every salat. That's we know that famous hadith. So it's like, come back into reality. Get rid of this, this false idea of what you think Islam is and what is, what you're getting blessings for, because it's funny because by you neglecting your duties to your husband and by your it's so deep how shaitan catches us, right? Because one, it's actually sinful, which I found out after I left the Jamaat, which I knew this before. It's actually sinful for a husband on the husband's side to be married to a disobedient wife. It is sinful. The husband gains sins by being married to a disobedient wife, right? That's one. So you have that aspect, right? Where you got a husband basically being a dayuth or a cuck, whatever, letting his wife just do all this stuff that she shouldn't be doing, going to serve another man. So shaitan got the husband, boom. He's got the wife now neglecting her duties to her husband by going to serve another man, and she's thinking she's getting blessings for it. Boom. Got the wife. Then you have this other guy, this sheikh or whatever, who's basically having inappropriate relationships with all these women that are serving him and doing all these different things. He's got all three. And it's real deep how shaitan, like these little things have big implications for our hereafter. And I was even thinking about like looking at so Mubarak Jalani did all these things that basically castrated the men in TMOA, right? Just cut it off, scissors. But even in his own house, it happened to him. Even in his own house, it happened to him. Because at the end, we know he wasn't running anything. It was Noor that was running everything. The Jamaat is run by women for the last 20 years.
And look, and look, even on top of that, look at all of his sons. He couldn't even produce a manly enough son that they would then take the lead and be the leader. All of his sons are literally following behind his ex-wife. Yeah. He couldn't even get. And so what he was able to inflict on TMOA happened to him. Literally, it happened the same way. A bunch of emasculated sons. I mean, it's just it's fluff. I mean, they can come behind their back, oh, you don't know it's this, that, and other, but won't say it out loud, won't say it to her face.
Yeah. Go, Fatima, say something. Go get her.
Yeah.
Get her.
The strongest one amongst them is the woman. But that's what Fir'aun did. he emasculated and killed the men, and then he either used the women, or the women were pushed into the roles of the men because the men were afraid. But here you go, same thing, pharaonic tactic. It literally fell back right in his own lap, and he even got to see it, and couldn't even stand up and do anything about it, literally and figuratively, as he ended his life. I mean, that to me, I mean, that's a that's a sad way to go out, where literally, I mean, you would want to see, especially, all these young men that you fathered and raised, to be able to, see them, displaying something that would at least give you the hope or the thought that they would be functioning, strong, dependable, capable men. I will say this, I say this all the time, almost every Friday I say this: the strength of the women really lies in the amount of dependable and capable men that they have around to protect them, to support them, to help them. It's not the other way around. If you emasculate your men, your whole society will be weak, because the women will be able to say a lot, but as far as the heavy lifting and the moving and the shaking and the fighting and the defending, the security, it's all on the men. If the men can't do it, your women will be taken left and right. And that is what we have seen. Whichever one of the women he wanted, he took. And not a man could say, yo, hold up. Nah, we're just not going to do it. No one could do it. So
could you imagine going? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, host.
Yeah. Honestly, I was on the sideline with this one right here, but I mean, this is a very intriguing topic, and it's one that really needs to be addressed and driven home. We all have children. I don't know about you, Amr, but we have children, man, and it's serious. It's like an epidemic going on with the emasculation of men and the castration of men in particular. It's really, really bad on a, not just, basically it's on a global scale here at this point. You know what I'm saying? Some of the higher ups, with this whole social media business, we know what they're doing with this little feminism movement, and how they're utilizing and weaponizing the women to bring down the men. This has been a story told, since the beginning of time. You know what I'm saying? If you want to bring down the men, you have to raise up the women, because, in societies, men are men's greatest threats. You know what I'm saying? So in the case of Mubarak Jelani, everyone gets tired of us talking about him, but this situation runs deep. It really does run deep. I mean, y'all hit on some pretty good points. I'm actually shocked. These are people that we grew up with, and these guys are acting like weenies, ninnies. I mean, it's absolutely, I'm shocked. Yeah. These dudes, doing all this stuff in the retreats, lifting weights, SpongeBob SquarePants muscles and all this stuff. And y'all dudes are some of the softest creatures, the fluffiest creatures. Now, like, seriously.
Well, even look at how even behind the scenes with the stuff we know that we can't talk about, but the closest that we got to someone actually defending TMOA was a woman.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then her male family members talked her out of it.
Don't go do that. Speak to R2F.
I mean,
don't you do it.
I keep getting all these fake tough guys. SpongeBob, I call him SpongeBob SquarePants. You know what I mean? You got the little fake muscles and all this. We keep getting all this from the sideline, and we keep telling these men, why don't y'all get on a stage and defend what you guys have all this mouth. You're running your mouth, you're carrying on. Get your keisters up on a platform, defend what you guys got going on. But like you said, the closest we've gotten is a Muslim sister. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I seen this guy in the store the other day. It's like, what do you do? I've known you for what, 15 years? Why are you hiding in the aisle? Waiting, I'm at the cash register. You're hiding in the aisle, acting like you're grabbing some chips. And of course, it's so silly because the door reflection is nighttime. So I'm just looking at him through the reflection. and he keeps looking at me, but he keeps acting like he's grabbing a chip. Like,
waiting for you to leave, he's terrified.
Yeah, I'm like, what is going on? You feel what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
no, seriously, what is happening
Listen.
to where the men, you know, like I said, it's on a very serious scale here. You know, we're raising sons, we're raising daughters, and we're trying our best to teach our sons to hold frame, have a masculine frame. Let's keep it real. You know, I don't know why everybody keeps trying to jumble these energies where women want to act like they're masculine. I'm sorry, I hate to break it to all the women in the world. Men are not attracted to masculine energy. That's actually a repellent. I'm just gonna put that out there for y'all.
And don't assume, they should not assume that if a man happens to be sleeping to you or married to you or needs some companionship, that he's attracted to everything else you got going on. Sometimes you're the only one available, or sometimes you're the only one he's allowed to be with. So don't get it twisted. But yeah, what you're saying is definitely correct. Ain't nobody attracted to that. Sometimes you're just the only one available.
No, 100% of men are not attracted to that. Like, let's just keep it flat. You feel what I'm saying? And this whole thing where they're trying to twist it all around and make the men feminine. Men aren't even attracted to.
But
no, seriously, women aren't even attracted to feminine men. You feel what I'm saying? While everyone's trying to do this little weird interchanging of the roles, that's not a thing. It's not a thing.
Well, you know what the thing is, especially, and it's actually it's a deeper conversation that we could have about, like, for instance, you know, that the audio that was posted today where Hussein Adams was like 90% of the men in Jamaat are committing fornication, right? Yeah. So I mean, which is it could be, there could be a high percentage of men, and we know of situations, but when you look at it, right? So and this is advice to women too, when you have a man that is pretty much, especially when he's in like the courting phase of your relationship, right?
Yeah.
And he's acting like a simp, like, yeah, you could, you know, I don't have no rules, you can do what you want, I'm gonna, like, whatever, right?
Nah.
This is the courting phase. But if you're in a relationship where, like, you are the masculine person in your relationship, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to really like your husband in the long term. And he's most likely going to cheat on you because that's not what he wants in a wife. He was acting like that because he thought that was going to get him in the door. Right.
Yeah.
So, and then they're going to, when they don't have like a feminine wife where when he comes home, he's the authority and she obeys him. And it's when he says, oh, you can or can't do this or do that. And she's like, oh, I'm going to tell the sheikh, or I'm going to tell Honorable Ibrahim or Amira this and that. Like, a man, he might accept it because he's in the cult, but know for sure he's going to look outside to get like that feeling of being a man from somewhere else. And that could be a reason for all y'all that are maybe in those situations that where your husband may be a serial adulterer. You might want to look inside at your relationship and say, hey, what's the dynamic of our relationship? Is my man the man of the house, or am I the man of the house?
Yeah. And trust me, he's going to be seeking that. I'm going to, I don't know how much more we got to get to. I think we kind of covered a lot of points, but I'm feeling like going into story time right now because,
no, go ahead.
Sometimes, you know, people say, you know, some of us like, I mean, the, what do they say, the alpha men or whatever right now, like if you're kind of like an alpha male, as they say, or that type of personality, you get called toxic. You get called, you know, chauvinistic. You get called, you know, he's living back in the old ages or whatever the case may be. But I have learned, I tell people, say, well, where do you get this type of, you know, dealing with women from, you know? And I have to tell people, I learned it from my mother. And I'll tell y'all a story about my mother. Her life story in a nutshell. I never saw my mother even one time undercut my father in front of, now she had 8 children and we all lived together. At one point in one 3-bedroom trailer, we all lived together. I never saw her cut his legs out from under him in public. Now, sometimes I may have overheard them talking or discussing together, some in another room or something like that, and they had their discussions. And I tell you, she had plenty of opportunity. There was times when admin came and wanted to string him up. They wanted to pin him down. They wanted to get after him. She never sold her husband out. She never said a word against him when it was him against anyone else. She took his side every time. Even though we looked at him, we was like, plenty of times we thought, surely, Omi is right. Abu needs this or that or whatever. We were against him in many occasions, not all the time, but plenty of times where we had a beef with him. We just had a beef between us and our dad. And she never once, the only thing she would tell us is, this is your father and you only get one. This is your father, you only get one. You can't divorce your parents. You can't divorce your father. That's all we ever got from her. And many times over the years, they've been married for over 40 years now. Many times over the years, we thought, Umi, you're right about this. You're right about that. You can get more this, more that, X, Y, Z, all these things we thought, that she could have or whatever. But she never would. Every time we have family discussions and think, okay, this is the time we're going to get her to, tell him X, Y, Z. She never did. She never disrespected him in front of anyone. She never emasculated him. Why am I saying this? I'm talking about the authorities, the legal authorities tried. She never sold him out. The TMOA admin, she never did. She always, kept him on a certain pedestal in public. In front of all of his children, she never did. Fast forward 40 years on, and people all, Jalil, she's this and she's always there and she's always behind her husband. When is she gonna, get it together? Now I have never seen a person take care of another person like my father takes care of my mother every day. Every day he bends over backwards hundreds of times a day for her because her health has deteriorated, but he's there every day with her. And I tell myself, by Allah, it's because she never sold him out. She never, ever cut his legs out from under him. Even though I seen admin in Tennessee, I seen them at our house trying to get her to roll, trying to get her to say, your husband this or your husband that, anything, and she never did. She never did. And they put a lot of.
And I want to chime in on that because that's a really good point you bring up. Respect for a man is huge. If a woman can keep respect for the man, he will honor her for this. Yes. You know what I'm saying? We, as men, we don't care so much about love. Women have to be told, I love you every day. Men, we do not need this. You know what I'm saying? You maintain respect. You know what I'm saying? You keep your husband where he needs to be. And more often, of course, men are silly too. I'm not acting like we're not, but more often than not, we would honor that woman. The lost art of mothers teaching and training their daughters how to be kept wives. That's gone. You know what I'm saying? We have to get back to that. I'm busy trying to teach my daughters, how to, not be so combative, stay in a more feminine frame. This is better for you if you want to be kept, long term, if you want to be able to maintain a relationship as you get older. You know what I'm saying? Respect for men is huge. Yeah. Of course, granted, that being said, the man has to be operating in a respectable, frame as well.
But the thing is, goes hand in hand. And a lot of times, man, your wife is going to see you through the whole spectrum. Your top of the world days and moments or whatever, and at times where you're just a complete jerk and maybe you need to be in jail or something. I mean, she's going to be privy to all of those moments, everything in between. So while everybody's heaping the praise on you, in public, she's there saying, yeah, he's that guy. And then in private, maybe she's, maybe she might not feel that way, but that loyalty, and that's why I gave the example of between my mother and father, that loyalty is what bought her my mother to where she has someone who literally is with her 24 hours a day, really doing whatever that she needs. And so people pay, hundreds of thousands of dollars for that type of service. She's getting it for free. Why? Because for 40 years, she always was there. She always was there for him. And loyalty, like you said, Hussein, loyalty is the thing. With men will move mountains for you and your family or whoever, as long as they feel like you have their back or have had their back in the past, and you're with them 100%. They literally will lay their lives down for you. They will take the bullet. They will.
Actually, I'm gonna put the other side in this, because like there's another side to this. Like there's two parties playing at this. So yes, women have to be more like women, but we cannot ignore the fact that men nowadays are just not being men.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's that aspect as well, because and I believe it starts with the man. Like, so like we talk about masculinity and all these different things, and because of all like the dialogue out there, you say a word like masculinity and people just start thinking like, abusive, tyrant, whatever, right? But men come in all shapes and forms. Basically, and how I look at it is, and everybody pretty much nowadays in modern times know what it's like to be in the workforce, right? And you have all types of different types of bosses or supervisors or leaders. But the fact is, because of their position, they have an authority. So you might have a boss that like is, really, like we can look at presidents. You can have like a Barack Obama husband, a little bit laid back, well-spoken, or you can have a Donald Trump type of authoritative, I'm just do what I say. You can have all types of different types of husbands. But the problem I think comes in is where at some point, and we see it especially in our culture, where men just stopped being men. Because I think that when a man, no matter how a woman is, if she's being masculine or trying to be the boss, if she's with the right man, she will give that crap up in a heartbeat, right? So what do the men have to do to kind of step up and stop being the feminine people in the households, to stop a lot, especially like when we're talking about like, because there's a lot of things men got to face nowadays, especially living in the West, right? Most likely you're going to need, it's like, what do men do to make things better?
I would say the problem with that is I think actually, I would have to disagree. I think it's actually on the women. The women can actually turn the tide of this thing. They can turn the tide because right now, the only people who really can basically pretty much just call their own shots in a relationship, very few men are capable of just being like, hey, it's going to be my way, take it or leave it. You know what I mean? That type of thing. Very few people are just built like that nowadays, just due to the society. But for the women, if a woman can get a man to do lots of things for access, the man wants access to the woman. And so for that access, some men turn into simps. The men who can't command the access, who are not attracting the women to them, they have to chase them. Lots of men are chasing the women. They're basically begging and offering. I mean, they're given, whether it's likes or given gifts. I mean, now it's an epidemic where we don't have to necessarily in the Muslim community, but maybe a little bit of it, where actually we do. It's
everywhere, bro. It's everywhere.
Yeah, when the woman is, she gets engaged. I remember when I was I won't say the lady's name, but I remember when I was trying to get married. I was like 19 or 20, maybe somewhere around there. And there was a young lady who was getting all types of gifts and stuff from a bunch of different guys who wanted to marry them. And she actually wasn't planning on marrying any of them. But she was getting a lot of gifts and, goats and, all types of stuff. People were just like, their stuff because they wanted access. But I think that the women can, if they understand the job that they have. I mean, they can inspire the men. They can, give them that confidence. They can help, give them that confidence that, yeah, they are the man and they have a place and a role in society that's very important, and they need to be there. They need to be in charge. They need to be leaders, and they need to be leading their families and communities.
I'm gonna agree and disagree
I'm
with
about
you.
to say,
So one,
Right.
I think it's on the men because the men are in charge. Everything starts with the man, right?
So when
But
so
I
so when the
also-
guy so when the guy
Mhm.
who's 20 years old, he's not a high earner. He does not really have a bunch of he doesn't have any like he's got no real guns to shoot.
Right.
So basically he needs a girl. That's why I
Well,
say
so
really
see, here's the
he-
thing: men don't need none of that.
They want it.
Men, you
Yeah.
don't need any of that to get a quality wife, especially in our Muslim culture, right? All you got to do is you could be dirt poor, and if you're gonna be if you're a good Muslim, a solid guy, you're going to find a great wife. It's not the same the other way around, right? But I do agree that the women have a responsibility as far as it goes to their sons, because you may already be married to a simp, deadbeat, feminine type of man, but you have to raise your sons to it, because I see a lot of different things like through my years is where you see this trend where like even with men like saying, "Oh, what is she bringing to the table?" And I'm like, "Nigga, what do you want her to bring to the table? Like, she got to have a job. She got to have this. Like, why would you want that? Like, you're like, when did men stop being proud of being a man, right? When did men start like being accepted? Like, yeah, she works, she pays half the bill, she does this and that. I do my thing. When did men start like to like for men that are like Muslim men, Muslim husbands, how we're supposed to be, even if our wife can work and go out and get good jobs, we still want to be like, no, I got this. That's when did men stop taking pride in that and being and we lost all of our principles with certain things, or like the thing like where if you go back to like maybe 20 30 years ago, men weren't chasing women. Men would have women they wanted, but it'd be the women like fighting over like, oh, I need these good. I'm everybody's trying to get Johnny down the road because he's got education, he's a good man, and he just got the pick of the litter.
Let's keep it real. I'm going to actually agree with Jaffa here. I do believe that it starts with the men. I do believe this because typically, no shade on women, women are actually looking for strong masculine men. Women are actually attracted to that. You feel what I'm saying? So feminine energy is always going to be attracted to masculine energy. Masculine energy is always going to be attracted to feminine energy. But it does start with the man. You know what I mean? He has to be able to exude that masculine energy. The way the society is going right now and how things are kind of really bearing down on men in particular, to where we're kind of getting stripped a lot of our goings, our rights, our positions, we're getting them torn and ripped away. You know what I'm saying? Even with situations like, let's say the food stamps or snaps or benefits or something like this, they make sure that the man is out of the equation. You feel what I'm saying? Incentivizing the woman, incentivizing her to where she's like, let's say y'all have an argument or something. She knows she has something to kind of lean back on. The government's going to take care of her. You feel what I'm saying? Or child support or something like this. A lot of us have been through these situations where it kind of really strips the man and tears the man and brings the man down. You look at, to give an example, TMOA, a lot of the women are organizing, orchestrating, running things. They don't really even respect those men. Truthfully, they don't even really respect those men. They're kind of just there, you know what I mean, here and there. The men
box of rocks for me.
The men are not aware that these women in this community do not respect y'all. Literally don't respect y'all. Talk down to y'all, carry on. You guys are so coward. Y'all been stripped and castrated so bad that y'all are literally terrified, petrified to literally just say, Umnor, no disrespect, but this is not your position here. You know what I'm saying? According to what Allah and Rasulullah says right here, boom, 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 boom. Are you able to justify this? Are you able to bring some reason to this situation as to why you're in this position?
Yeah.
Terrified, petrified. Like, what is going on? If someone don't, if I got the opportunity, if I seen Noor, not really, because I wouldn't really care. But if I actually cared and seen her, I would literally go up to her and just notify her of this. Like, what's going on? What's happening?
Like, what are you doing, girl?
Yeah, no, literally, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? And there's a saying, and to bring it home to what I'm saying, to make this all make sense. A king in his kingdom can reach out to any one of his quote unquote servants. He can bring someone from there into the castle and make her queen. A queen cannot reach out into her, her group of servants or whatever and pick somebody and make that person king. Mm-hmm. She cannot do this. But the king has the ability and authority to do this. So I'm saying all that to say, I am in agreement with Jaffer in this case, because women are naturally going to follow a strong, a wholesome man. You know what I mean? If he's basically how the order goes, if you are obedient and subservient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know what I'm saying, as a man, your wife and your children will be obedient and subservient to you. This is just the natural order of things. So I do believe it does start with the man. I apologize for rambling.
No, that was good. I mean, I think I'm not disagreeing that it doesn't start with the man, but I'm looking at the current situation, the current climate. And the women are running away with this joint. The women are running up the score on these dudes. And
hold on. Let me chime in on that. They're running up the score. They're running up the score once again. When you look at a lot of these media outlets and stuff, just to your point, Mubarak, because I do agree, the women are smoking the men right now. They're getting their moment in the sun. You feel what I'm saying? They're getting their time to shine. They're getting all these, positions and executive positions. But what I will say about that is, our roles inherently are always going to revert back to the natural order when things get serious. When it's survival time and it's go time, a man is going to be a man. You feel what I'm saying? A woman is going to get into her position wherever she's positioned, and she's going to be a woman. You feel what I'm saying?
Because I got a question. I got a question for y'all. So, especially the way the culture is here in the West, where, odds are you're not going to find a woman, these young men are looking to get married. You're going to marry someone she's going to want to get her college education. She's going to want to take a shot at like having a career, maybe already has a good career. How does a man maintain his manhood by also being married to like the modern woman? Is that possible? And if it is possible, how do they do it without becoming emasculated?
Keeping it real with you,
is the only answer that we keep our wives barefoot and pregnant.
No.
The only gifts they get is cooking utensils and cleaning supplies. Like, is that the only answer?
Stay out of my kitchen. No, but on certain a more serious thing to answer Jaffer's question, I think because of the society we're in today, right? And this is, again, it all comes back to the man, right? Because a lot of these girls are raised by single parents, right? And so the things that they see growing up is that I have to do X, Y, and Z because my mom did this by herself, right? So now she has been raised to, in her mind, it's like, okay, well, I have to do this all myself. And so a girl will naturally, and this is psychology proven, she will naturally adhere to her roles when she finds a guy who's masculine enough for her, right? So if you're that guy, best believe that it doesn't matter what job she has. At the end of the day, when she comes home, she knows that, oh, he's in charge. Because you, as a man, you can be laid back, it's cool, I'm laid back, but you have to know when to be an alpha, right? So it really falls onto the man to know that, okay, I have to show force here at this point in time to really get her to adhere to what I want. And also, before you get married, let's say you're in the process of getting married, you have to have your plans laid out prior and have these conversations with the girl. They're like, hey, listen, this is what I expect from a wife, X, Y, and Z. And so if she can't adhere to that, then you probably should move on.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like this. like Hussein alluded to earlier, and I'm talking to the women. This is why I say it's on the women. The women have, I would say it's like
they're not going to do it, Mubarak. You know that. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. They'll lead everyone off a cliff.
No.
That was my point, because I was thinking
down,
like,
bro.
like if you leave it on the women, they're gonna want the best of both worlds, and they're gonna want a man who's masculine when they want him to be masculine, but also let me do what the hell I want to do when I want to do it.
Yeah. But I mean, I think the reason why I say that is because it's not that it's on the women. I think that it's harming the women actually, that they are in the more masculine role, because their men are emasculated. Maybe they can go in and out of house whenever they want and be sent to Pakistan and Egypt or wherever whenever they want, and they think, well, this is freedom and liberation or whatever, but it's really not. It's actually harming them, because if you look at TMOA, for instance, that place in general is a dilapidated ghetto. I mean, it is absolutely run down. It's as if it's a place with no men. I mean, just simple handyman work is not done. Just simple, like I mean, sometimes my father-in-law will come, and just as a man, like, he has certain skills and capabilities. He'll just show up and just start fixing stuff, just like, I mean, just what he does, because he's had that skill. You know what I mean? I might say something about me that I'd be having stuff that ain't fixed around, but still, but I'm just saying, but that's just something about men. When you have a certain amount of just men around, stuff just doesn't stay out of order. They really they get stuff done. Men get stuff done when they are, have that authority and that ability and the environment to do so. And so it's harming the women in TMOA, because their children are uneducated. They're not even taken care of. They're definitely, if they're middle class, I would say, I mean, lower poverty. I mean, so if they look at the entire environment, the whole thing, the big picture, they're failing. They are failing across the board, religiously, socially, educationally, and every other lead you want to throw in there, they're failing. So I mean, they can't act like, yo, we're winning. You're really not winning. I mean, so you have to look at it and say, well, how can we get to that next level? I mean, they literally can look across the street at the Amish people, and the Amish people are lapping them. I mean, by leaps and bounds. Their communities are their communities are flourishing. Why? So the women have to look at it and be like, yo, I mean, yeah, we got the power, we got this or whatever. I mean, it looks nice or whatever, but at the end of the day, we're really not winning. And I'm saying for the women to win big, for the whole community to win big, for society as a whole to win big, the men have to return to their place where they need to be. And the women have to be in their place where they need to be, and they actually feed off of each other. It produces a strong, functional community and an environment where you're able to literally move mountains. You're able to actually conquer, continents and half the globe. I mean, the Mongols and the Turks, and these people who literally, from a handful of people, 1,000 men, taking over the world. They literally took over the world 2 times. These people did it. And it was just a handful of people who just were rugged. They were tough, and their women backed them, and the men went to work. They handled their business, and their women respected them, and they could do pretty much anything that was able to be done under the sun. So that's why I say the women play a vital role in helping the men, pushing them, urging them, encouraging them to be who they need to be. And it helps them. It's better for them. Maybe they don't.
Absolutely. Not to cut you off. I agree with that, Mubarak. And to Jaffar's question that he posed, really, really slippery slope there. But I do like Amar's. I did like Amar's response. I liked Amar's response a lot, because at the end of the day, just like we're talking about, the roles are going to be respected when they're in their natural positions. They're just going to be respected. You know what I'm saying? They're going to be respected. I think it comes down to balance. I mean, you don't want to say, oh, you can't go to college, you can't do this, you can't do that. But there has to be some measure of balance there to where things are understood. You feel what I'm saying? Okay, I would like to go get a job. Let's say my wife says she wants to get a job or something like that. I'll be like, okay, that's cool, you know, X, Y, and Z. But as long as things in the house are maintained, you're not going to go get a job and then I'm going to turn it to daddy daycare somewhere and I'm going to be doing this and doing that. We're not doing that.
Well, see, so here's the thing. So every man is different. Every husband's different. So like, and I think it's a very, for me, it's a simple thing. Like, as long as the husband and the wife are doing their best to adhere to what pleases Allah,
yeah,
then everything's going to work out, right? Because, like, for instance, for me, I'm gonna let my wife do whatever she wants as long as it's halal. You want to have a career? Okay, let's have a career. You want to go to school? Go to school, right? But my wife knows what my role is and my authority is, and she never transgresses on that, you know. And if that did occur, then other things would have to change in that relationship.
I agree with this. I agree with this, Jaffer, because again, I think there's a common misconception. Listen, I'm not threatened or intimidated. Let's say my wife gets this career, she gets this magical career, and she starts bringing in big bucks. I'm not going to be intimidated at all. Yep. Now, someone else might be intimidated from that, not me. You know what I'm saying?
I've seen men that are less, and this comes from the emasculation part, maybe how they were raised or how they were brought up, where they actually get intimidated by these things and they actually start, like, you know, like now acting out against their wife. Like, now they want to be masculine to bring their wife down because they think that makes them big by bringing their wife down. It's like, no, she has a good education, a good job, let her go do her thing.
That depends. That really depends on the type of woman you have. That really depends on the type of woman, because
I agree with this.
If some women, if you let them pay for dinner, they'll say, my nigga, I'm the maintainer and provider around here.
I agree. That's actually a good point.
So you have to be careful with that. Every woman who can go to work doesn't need to be. And I pretty much say the same thing as you, Jaffer, with a caveat. I say you can do whatever you want to do, but this is what I like in my home. I like my wife to stay home and raise and teach the children. And it's a 24-hour job, basically. It's a full-time job every day, all day. If you want to be out and work, somebody's going to do it, because I need somebody in the home every day. I mean, not out working. So if you want to do that, you have to know that somebody's going to be there, and somebody's going to be there with these kids every day. I don't send my children to school. I homeschool them. And I don't, there's certain things that and it's very clear. So as long as it's clear and the woman understands, but I want to do this and I don't mind. And the man is like, okay, well, if you want to go work or not do anything, okay, if that's the case, but this is what I need and this is what I'm going to get. As long as it doesn't harm me having to get someone else to do this and whatever else that I might need, then no problem. But as long as that's clear, I think it's cool.
But my big thing is like, okay, my thing is I want my wife to be happy, right? I don't care what I got to do. The best, I go off of the hadith, the best of men are the ones that are best to their wives. So I'm going to do whatever I got to do to make you happy, as long as we're not displeasing Allah, right? So if that means daddy daycare, listen, I'm down for that. It's going to make you happy. Alhamdulillah, I'm getting blessings for it, right? But you're not going to live in two different worlds. So you gotta look at the decisions you're making that's going to make you happy, because you already know. I mean, those of us that are experienced, they're gonna go through a search to find what makes them happy. So you're gonna be doing multiple things. But it's like, okay, so you want to go to school now? All right. So in 3 years from now, when you're like, all right, I want to have kids, it's like, okay, well, know what you're getting into, because you're going to school now, and you have this career you're starting, and you're starting to have the kids. So like, something is going to give and take. You can't be, I'm going to be like, I want a certain lifestyle in one spectrum and a whole different lifestyle that doesn't mix with, or even like meet in the middle with another lifestyle. You got to know what you're doing. But other than that, please Allah, and I'll make you happy. As long as you're happy, I'm happy. What's good for? But know what you're getting into. Like, let's have that conversation, because what happens is you have a lot of especially in TMOA, you see it all the time, where because these people didn't grow up, and we kind of skipped over it, in stable households where they had a positive father and mother figure. Like what you mentioned about your mother and father is probably so rare in TMOA. So rare because you have women that will sell their husbands out right for the administration because they'll give them props and status, right? And you have all these guys, all these husbands that were in jail for 10, 15 years for doing whatever crimes away from the family or on the run and all. They don't know what, alhamdulillah, Allah had me, even though my parents got divorced, I grew up for the most part of my life in a stable household with a positive father figure, with a positive mother figure. And I seen what that looked like. A lot of men and especially women didn't grow up seeing that. So then they had this fairy tale idea of what marriage is, right? They have this idea, like the women have this idea, like I'm gonna get married and we're gonna be going on trips, and he's gonna buy me my own house, and we're gonna get furnished, and I'm gonna have my own car, and meanwhile, this nigga ain't even go to college yet.
We about to wrap this up, but let me ask a question. This is for all three of y'all. Do y'all think that Mubarak Jelani was a masculine man?
No, not at all.
No.
No.
Think about that. Just think about that very carefully here, because again, it's a little touchy. Because if we just throw him out and say no, he was not masculine, then we got some real answering to do. So what y'all got? Talk to me.
No, he wasn't. Sorry, I'm just gonna make this real quick.
Go ahead.
I don't think he was like this. He wasn't like, you know what I mean? Like, you know.
I just said masculine. I didn't say hyper masculine, even though I don't even like that term. That's a made up term.
No. I mean, I don't think he was really manly or anything like that. I think he was, you know, he had a scheme. He was running a scheme, and he was in cosplay. He was playing a scheme. But as you can see, really, I mean, I think Jafar was saying one time where I don't know if it was on video or something, but anyway, somewhere where he quoted and was saying that he's not in control of anything anymore. And so if he was a really masculine man, then you would have you had to have seen at least one of his sons you know, carry on somewhat like that. But there is
the mountain guy. I think the mountain guy tried. He had like a spark. He had like a little spark.
The mountain guy,
little letter when he came down from the mountain.
The mountain guy. I mean, like he kind of just ran the same playbook as my father. He's gonna front strong and then just back off immediately, right? So like this like it's like Mark said, cosplaying, right? Like so he's cosplaying this like, you know, alpha male, right? But when they're pressed, it's a cat behind it, right? And so that's what happened to Mudassir. That's what happened to Jelani. And I mean, can you really be an alpha male if you spend half your life on your back? Like, just
no. I mean,
so listen, look at this. Look at this. One big point of how he was not a masculine man. He was the furthest thing from a masculine man, right? One, you let your wife sleep with another man.
Bingo.
One. That's one.
I mean, that's it.
One. That's one. Then
curtains.
Two.
That's curtains.
Any authority that he was given by people that had the authority. The people in the Jamaat, these leaders, the Khalifa Yahya and all these people that were actually in charge, the only reason why people followed them is because they deferred their authority to him. Yeah. That's two. And three, if you watch as many lectures and discourses as I did, you see how he has like a low self-esteem, right? This is why he would be saying all these crazy things, and when people are going hoo-ha in the background, you see him like start like, oh, they're feeling me. You see that he's very self-conscious, low self-esteem type of person, right? You see that. Damn, I had another one, but everything about his character that you see that he's a very. Oh, here's the other one. Here's the last one. Every adult female he was married to left his ass.
I was just about to say that. I was just about to say that, Jaffa, because if you look at his pattern, of course, we was just growing up in the smoke. But if you look at his pattern, just like you said, his self-esteem was so low. Apparently, he was only interested in dealing with children to where he could feel manly and he could really control them and manipulate them and do all these different things. Because let's keep it flat. I'm gonna behave with my language, but let's say a mature woman, you know what I'm saying, who kind of knows her way around, she wasn't about to be dealing with none of that. You know what I'm saying? Because you do have obligations to that woman inside of the bedroom. You know, let's keep it flat. You feel what I'm saying? So I'll just say that. So I definitely agree with that because you head hunting for 15, 14, 13-year-olds. Come on, man. We got 15, 14, and 13-year-olds.
And they tried to leave him. Every woman he was with tried to leave him.
Every single one. And if you think about this, all the Pakistani ones, okay, and the one American sister or whatever, that, you know, they all bailed. They bounced or whatever, couldn't deal with him, wouldn't deal with him or whatever. And then the kids that he married, what wound up happening is that they stuck around. The one that stuck around, they wound up growing up and then taking over. Snatched his whole joint. Whole joint. I mean, so that shows you, no, he really wasn't that dude, because as soon as they grew up a little bit, lights out. I mean, you know, it was over. So no, to answer your question, that's a flat out no, bro.
Yeah, no. All right. I thought it was intriguing to kind of ask that question.
And also, like you can see it as a man, like, I mean, sure, don't tolerate the disrespect, but like the over exaggeration that he had to do if someone ever questioned him, because he was always trying to prove himself. So if someone did anything to him at all,
that's facts.
Just like this man Joffrey sent him the most respectful PR letter of all time. All right,
and you couldn't just answer. You couldn't even answer one question. Like,
exactly. That's how, like, go to the extreme. He was so challenged. Like, he was like,
well, look, he wrote a letter. He wrote a response that was supposed to be read to me, which he never did, but it was addressed to the community. So he never even addressed me. Like, that's how much of a coward you are. And the thing is this is another example, because like how he treated like my whole situation, right? There's a more prevalent example in, like, there's a story I got with this one of his top student, which is Hussein Adams, right? So I'll tell you a story about one of the basketball tournaments. It was down south. I think it was South Carolina. It might have been Virginia. Doesn't matter. We had a basketball tournament. You know, my brother Abdul Kawi. We had a nephew. If y'all been at the tournaments, y'all know my nephew Javon, the non-Muslim kid, light-skinned kid who looks like Mike Bibby, who always plays in our team. He's been playing on our basketball team since the tournament started. It's never been an issue. Yeah, he's not Muslim, but he's our nephew. He always played. This one tournament, even before we brought him all the way down, paid his fees to come all the way down to Virginia or South Carolina, wherever it was, we specifically asked Hussein Adams if he could play. Oh yeah, sure, he could play. We get down there, we're warming up. People had went and politicked it in K2's ear, and like, and then all of a sudden, oh, Javon can't play. So my brother Dukawi, he had like lost it on Hussein Adams, and he started like in front of the whole gym signs down. My brother, you know, my brother's big, 6'2", you know, 200 something pounds. He's like pointing his finger down at K2, like, you said this, how dare you, like giving him the business. Hussein Adams just shriveled down, backed up to the wall, and like didn't say nothing. Straight punked him, right? We get to my brother, calm him down, this and that. We get in a circle, we're talking with all the captains, and it was like, oh, he can play. My brother calms down, Hussein Adams is there, and now my brother, like, he's cool now. He's like, hey man, I'm sorry for like talking to you like that, this and that. After my brother apologized, who you think you're talking to? What? Like, are you serious, right? That's a BA nigga. That's the number one. That's the same type of personality that Mubarak Jelani has. Is that when someone lowers their wing to him, then he's like, oh, I got him. I could puff up my chest on him, talk dirty to him. But if someone puffed, like we have the story of MJ, we have the interview when MJ was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Did he say anything to MJ?
Nope.
Did he say, I'm going to kill you? He didn't say nothing. He waited, went back and went to MJ's friend and was like, yeah, go kill that nigga.
So yeah, like he definitely had zero alpha, like zero masculine traits. Like he was a soft, but we're gonna start wrapping up, inshallah. So if you have questions, then please ask them. And we have a few things in the comments on YouTube from Hasina Muhammad. Let's not forget MG chastised a man for getting his wife pregnant. And they were both in Pakistan because she was supposed to be helping MG, and a pregnancy was inconvenient for him. Do you know who that was? It was my parents. I've been getting in that nigga's way since birth, bro. That's crazy. 25 years later, still causing problems, nigga. Tough as hell.
Yo.
Tough as hell.
Yo. But wait, I wonder, did couples go over there together?
Yeah.
This got me thinking of a whole different. Did like married couples were they actually in Pakistan?
Yeah.
Did that happen a lot?
I don't know if it happened a lot, but they're over like married together. Yeah.
So your parents were, but were
Yeah.
they're like, okay. Because I'm wondering if they were allowed to be husband and wife while they were
You
in
weren't supposed to be because
Pakistan.
it got in the way, but you know, if anyone
homeboy probably had a little peephole he could like
listen, bro. If anyone knows my father, bro, listen, he about to make some rules. All right. Yeah, I've been getting that nigga's way forever.
What else we got? What else we got in the chat?
If you don't pay percent, you have to get permission to see your wife and kids.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Could you
actually did
imagine
that
that? Yeah, like you miss a bill, you're poor. This is why you're not paying your percent or whatever. You're poor enough that you could collect zakat, but you have to pay percent, and then you get cut off from your family.
Yeah, what they were doing was if you didn't pay, they was doing this down here in Virginia. If the men didn't pay, you know what I'm saying, they would get kicked out of the house until they got current on their payment, where the wife and the children would still be at the crib. You know what I'm saying? The men would have to get out. I just thought it was.
I got a story.
Some dudes was happy with that. I remember that happening in Tennessee where people they came right to the mailbox or whatever, like, yo, you sent a message from my wife. Or my kids. They got their little 7-10-year-old daughter running back and forth with food or whatever the case may be. But some dudes was like, all right. They was like they wife and kids was good on the land or whatever, and they was chilling. You know,
I got two stories. I know we're trying to wrap up, but I got two stories. So one is with our dear friend Egg Roll. So his family had their own house on Islamberg, and he didn't pay percent or land tax or something. So they kicked his wife and children out of the home. And that's when he went up there like any man, like y'all kicked my kids out of my home, right? Like that like their home. And then he got jumped and then beat up with a 2x4. And now he defends these niggas. Yeah, but yeah. And then there's another story where another individual that went down, they were on one of the lands in Virginia, I think it was, or Georgia. I think it was Virginia, one of the Virginia lands. And the individual was there with his wife. His wife had went to the back or something with the ladies. They had found out like he was, I forget they found out he was like cool with R2F or something.
How dare he?
So they come to him and kick him off the land. He's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go get my wife. And like, no, you can't get your wife and kids. Could you imagine being in that situation? Like someone's gonna die or something. Like, no, like I'm getting my wife and kids. What the fuck y'all talking about? Excuse my language, sorry.
That ain't happening. That ain't happening. Not with me.
What else we got, Amr?
Paying percent to see your own family, to see your own kids. Another cult owns the family as well. And then I think that's it. So we have a question on the side.
See, I think we have some in the Zoom chat too. I think Miss Pop put some in there.
Addis will probably have multiple husbands. That's probably true.
She gonna have multiple side jumps, definitely. She probably already do. AP, get it?
He wishes.
Hey, I'm about to say AP. You know
that nigga wishes, bro. That nigga is Kingston, bro. What the hell he got going on?
He ain't got it, man. I love him.
Nigga,
yeah,
this nigga blocked his father. Like, who's gonna check that? Like, is Umnor going to his phone? Like, is Abdullah being blocked? It's like, yo, nigga, you the hell you got going on? Y'all niggas be stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
Dog.
Like the middle door to paradise. Let me block that. Let me lock that down. Yeah. Middle door to paradise.
I'm serious. The simp army. You know what I'm saying? it's out of control, man. Simposaurus is out here, bro.
Yeah,
real.
You imagine that you got these older brothers, right? That are supposed to be like these older scholars that remember they were like, oh, we got to get permission from the Sheikah to refute y'all. You're 70 years old.
Go talk. talking about our show was tainted. Do your own show, anything, please. Y'all over here
Trying
looking
to get
Oh my
permission from
God.
Shaker to refute y'all.
But yeah, I mean,
their new spill now is she's not in charge. She's just on the panel with the Ashore. They all make the decisions together.
No, they don't.
This is their new Murph, you know what I'm saying? To try to get away from the fact that they're leaderless right now if they disregard or dismiss the authority of the milkshaker.
and you should just ask them who is the leader? Who is if she's
when
not
you
in charge?
ask them that, they're going to say the Shore Council's the leader. That's their
tell them Northern, I dare you.
Who the leader of the Shore Council?
There's no leaders. They're the leaders. I'm gonna do a cold combo. Like I said,
you gotta use that voice. You gotta use that voice.
I'm gonna do a cold combo for real, man. I've been meaning to, you know what I mean? Me and Mom, we've been talking about it. We're deciding who's gonna play what role. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, every time
who's gonna be the cuck,
we be cracking up because their responses are so stupid and retarded.
Oh my God!
Like, oh my, are y'all serious?
First of all,
well, you don't realize how bad they are until you like step away and like, wait, did this nigga just say that?
Yeah. I don't even want to, but anyways, alhamdulillah. Good to see you.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah, but just I know we kind of went off the rails a little bit, just slightly, but seriously, it's a serious topic. It's a serious topic, and even though even here we kind of not that we disagreed, but we kind of have different approaches to trying to solve the problem. But it definitely is a problem.
That's healthy.
Yeah, but it definitely is a problem, and I think we all agree that definitely is a problem. And the emasculation of the men is the reason for the failure of the whole operation. If there was even one or two just really strong men that could maintain and do their job, then a lot of the atrocities, a lot of the oppression, a lot of the transgression wouldn't have taken place. So
you're talking about on within TMOA, correct?
Within TMOA,
literally one or two men, just like you said, Mubarak, one or two would have had no parts in none of this malarkey. Zero.
So whether it's the men that are more responsible for getting it back on track, or the women, I'd say it's at least 50-50, but I say 55% on the women, because they got the power, they got the juice right now, and they can. I would say this. Let me just say this. Let me just say two things, and I'm just gonna shut it down. Number one is, I hear this so many times, especially from our women, right? I'm a queen. I'm a beautiful black queen. Queen. Everybody's a queen. All right, you're a queen. Find me a queen that's not married to a king. Queens marry kings. They don't marry, F-boys and simps and stuff. Yeah. A queen, if you are a queen, you have to have a king. And what's a king? So a king is someone who has the authority in all of his domain. He's the ruler, he's the leader, he's in charge. Whatever he says goes. He gets stuff done, and he goes to war if he needs to. Leads the army if he needs to. That's the king. So my thing is, for these women, you have to not only have a king, but you got to treat him like a king, because he ain't a king if ain't nobody treat him like the king. That's like Joffrey or something like that. That's not a real king. That's just a point put there. So Joffrey, people don't know who Joffrey is, but a person who's just put there, a figurehead. He's not really the leader. Then that person's going to be run over top of. But a true king is going to have a queen on his arm, and a true queen is only going to be married to a king. So for you, beautiful, black, strong, independent, whatever queens or whatever you are, you got to start treating your men like a king. Otherwise, you ain't a queen. If you treat your man like a peasant, you're just the wife of a peasant, and that's it. You got to treat him like a king so you can be a queen.
I have to say this point. Really good information right there. But let's keep it real, y'all. Kings don't self-anoint themselves. The people anoint the king. So while the queen is self-anointing herself, that's not even a thing. You have to actually get crowned. The people have to crown you a queen. You can't just say, I'm a queen. You feel what I'm saying? Kings don't run around saying, "Oh, I'm a king." You feel what I'm saying? Even like what Jaffa was saying about the only reason why Mubarak Galani, I'm actually about to start calling him Galani.
Yeah.
Mubarak Galani was even in that position is because they gave this man the power. He had truly no power over there. Truly had no power. So I'm saying all that to say these self-appointed queens, if you have to put a fake crown on your own head to be a queen, you're not a queen. No one even gave you that authority. So stop it, knock it off.
You know, for this whole queen king analogy had me thinking about something that ties into. So we know the Queen of England just died, right? She's legit a queen, and she actually is a legit queen that actually has more power than the king. So, but I'm into history stuff. Go to Netflix and watch the series, The Queen, right? And it goes into her life, and it's an interesting dynamic to see that she's the queen, but she has a husband that technically she's got more authority than him, but it shows their inner dynamics of their actual relationship, where he was still the man of the house. And she recognized that, being the queen of the country, recognized that her husband was still an authority over her. And you see sometimes how it clashes, but it's interesting to see someone of that status that is actually a legit queen and actually legit could tell her husband to do whatever she wanted to do, that she still submitted to her husband.
This is a non-Muslim. Jaffa, see now you now I'm trying to wrap this up. This is the last thing I'm gonna say. That's a good point, Jaffa, because if you look at the story and the history of Rasulullah Islam and Hazrat Khadija radiallahu anha, she had power, she had a position, she was beautiful, she was sought after, but Rasulullah Islam, him being the man that he was in his masculine frame, you feel what I'm saying? His characteristics, just like what Umar was saying too, she naturally came into her role in her position. You feel what I'm saying? And this is a strong message. It's strong information for all of us, because she had all the wealth, all the bread, all the this, all of that, but she was still his wife, and she still knew her role and understood her position inside of their home and even outside of the home. Nice. So it's no disrespect and it's no shade. Like I said, I wouldn't be intimidated at all if my wife was making big bread. You know what I'm saying? Because I know my wife. We have an understanding. We have a relationship dynamic. You know what I'm saying? We understand our roles. We respect the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it wouldn't bother me at all. Literally not intimidate me at all. You feel what I'm saying? So I just look to that story in the position in the history of Hazrat Khadija with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A lot of women can derive a lot of benefit in that, because she had beautiful, impeccable character. You feel what I'm saying? And she was. So
if you guys got anything out of this show, we're gonna wrap it up right now. But regardless of who's it on, we all got to do our part. Men, do your part to start stepping up our game as being men. Women, step up your game as being women. You'll find you'll find that you'll have a better relationship with your wife if you do that. Women, you'll find that you'll have a better relationship with your husbands. And also, both of us as husband and wives have to start instilling these values into our children so we can at least help save the next generation. So if you have any questions or concerns, you can send us an email, chats, all that stuff. You guys already know how to do. Thank you for tuning in for this show. Go ahead.
This is a completely unrelated side note to the show we had today. If any other students of the IQOU Theological College are in attendance and they have attended the school in any way, shape, or form, right? If you have attended the school, please send me a syllabus for the classes that you're taking and or notes. I would love to review them. All right, so I can see what kind of BS that you've been being taught and paid for. So if you know anyone that is attending the Theological College online, it has notes, Google Docs, whatever. Please, I would just love to just read it. Like I promise I won't share it with anyone, but I just I just need to confirm certain things because the school is supposed to start months ago. All right, so I'm gonna need to see something to
I
prove that
forgot
y'all
all about
actually.
that daggone school.
You know you cannot do this as we're trying to wrap up the
I'm
show.
about to say, I'm recording. Don't do this, bro. I mean,
Real
I'm
funny.
talking about
You know what?
a slew of jokes just came to me. A slew of them. I'm gonna behave. I'm gonna behave. I got some cocked in the chamber right now. I'm gonna behave.
I'm gonna hold my tongue on that one, but I do need to say one thing that I keep forgetting to mention. What we are going to start doing, and I meant to run this by the guys, but I just kept forgetting. But I really need to do it. So, there is a Quran school that we are running and funding in Pakistan. Okay, they are teaching the children reading Quran and memorizing Quran in Pakistan, and it's like, with the students and 2 teachers and a little bit of administrative stuff or whatever. It's running at about $100 a month. But what we're trying to do is take on some more. Yeah, basically. So basically just a handful of people have kind of been just taking care of it. But what I would like to do is I would like to see anybody who wants to donate to help to fund the school. We can expand it. We can franchise it or set up different ones in different locations and spread them out. But please, we have the different ways that you can donate to the R2F, and then we will help to pay the teachers and help the students to learn Quran and Islamic studies and to read and memorize in some Islamic studies like that. Any amount is fine. What we will start doing is we will have through the R2F platform, we will have classes for reading and tajweed and learning to read and reading Quran with tajweed and memorization. We will offer that for free through R2F for whoever wants to donate to helping the Quran schools that we're going to be setting up. So any type of donation, it doesn't matter the amount, $1, $100, $1 million, $1,000. We will start to set up a schedule for the classes that will be free and anyone can attend or whatever. All we ask is that you offer some sort of donation to help other people who are less fortunate in other countries and wherever to learn the Quran as well. So that's what we're going to do. We do have a female teacher that will also teach the women. From whatever level that you are. We'll take you from 0 to 100. So this is going to be a service that's going to be provided pretty much for free. All we ask is that you donate whatever you feel like you can, and that donation will be going to help students to learn the Quran and to memorize it. And as Allah says, as Rasul says, that خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه, the best of you are those who learn the Quran and teach it. So it's definitely a tremendous thing that you can do to help people to learn it as well. So that's it. So that's going to be coming down the pike. Just look at that. If you want to donate, you can go ahead and send it over. We have the different things, and we'll put the links on our whatever sites or whatever, and you can just specify that you want to help the Quran school, and then we'll get you set up, inshallah.
Inshallah. All right, good show, brothers. Alhamdulillah. All right.
Who's closing us out?
I got us.
Go ahead, Amr. Hit the speedy one.
Subhanallah, alhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.